Billionaire humiliated black waitress in court. Then she exposes the truth that shocked everyone. What if a simple disagreement in a luxury restaurant turned into a battle for justice, exposing the hidden truths about racism, workplace discrimination, and the power of one woman's voice? Marissa Green was no stranger to struggle. At 28, she'd spent 5 years weaving through the polished chaos of Lucille, one of New York City's most exclusive restaurants. The chandeliers glittered like stars, the linens were crisp as fresh snow, and the clientele, hedge fund tycoons, celebrities, and old money elites, wore their privilege like a second skin. Marissa, with her warm brown eyes and a smile that could light up a room, moved with grace, balancing trays of delicate amuse-bouches and $200 bottles of wine. But beneath her practiced poise, she carried a quiet fire, a dream to become a chef, to create dishes that told stories of her heritage, her mother's collard greens, her grandmother's cornbread, infused with the sophistication she'd learned at Lucille. Her days were long, her wages barely enough to cover her cramped Harlem apartment. The tips were good, but they came with a price. Wealthy patrons often treated her like she was invisible, or worse, like she was beneath them. She'd heard it all, the subtle sneers, the offhand comments about her braided hair, the way some customers snapped their fingers like she was a dog. "Smile more," they'd say, or, "You're lucky to work here." Marissa swallowed the indignities, tucking them away like crumpled napkins, because she had to. The restaurant was her stepping stone, her chance to learn from the best, to one day stand in a kitchen of her own. Her co-workers were a mixed bag. There was Jamal, the line cook who slipped her extra portions of staff meals and cracked jokes to lighten her shifts. There was Claire, the hostess, who was kind but distant, her privilege a wall Marissa could never quite scale. And then there was Mr. Hargrove, the manager, a man with a thin mustache and a thinner spine, always bowing to the whims of the restaurant's elite clientele. Hargrove liked Marissa's work ethic but never hesitated to remind her how replaceable she was. Marissa's nights often ended with her sketching recipes in a worn notebook, dreaming of a restaurant where the food was soulful, the staff was treated like family, and no one was made to feel small. But dreams felt far away when she was scrubbing wine stains off tablecloths at 2 a.m. or dodging the leering gaze of a drunk investment banker. Still, she pressed on, fueled by a stubborn hope that one day, her talent would outshine the prejudice she faced. It was a chilly October evening when Thomas Wilder walked into Lucille. The billionaire was a name everyone knew, his face plastered on Forbes covers, his tech empire a juggernaut that crushed competitors without mercy. At 52, he was tall, impeccably dressed, with silver hair and a voice that commanded attention. He arrived with an entourage of 6, their laughter loud and their demands louder. Marissa was assigned their table, her stomach tightening as she approached. She'd served men like Wilder before, men who saw her as less than human, a prop in their evening of excess. The night started smoothly enough. Marissa delivered their cocktails, recited the specials with her usual charm, and navigated their questions with ease. But then Wilder, his eyes glinting with arrogance, demanded a dish that wasn't on the menu, a custom steak preparation with ingredients the kitchen didn't carry. Marissa explained, politely but firmly, that Lucille's menu was fixed, a policy set by the Michelin-starred chef. Wilder's smile vanished. "You're telling me no," he said, his voice low but venomous. The table fell silent. Marissa's pulse quickened, but she held her ground. "I'm sorry, sir, but we can't make changes to the menu. I can recommend something similar." "Don't recommend anything," Wilder snapped, loud enough for nearby tables to turn. "Do your job. Get me what I want." Marissa's cheeks burned, but she kept her composure. "I'll check with the kitchen," she said, knowing the answer would be no. When she returned with the chef's refusal, Wilder exploded. "This is ridiculous," he bellowed, slamming his fist on the table. Glasses rattled. "You think you can tell me what I can't have? You're a waitress, for God's sake. Know your place." The words hit like a slap. Marissa froze, her tray trembling in her hands. The restaurant seemed to shrink around her, every eye on her, judging, pitying, or worse, indifferent. She wanted to snap back, to tell him he was the one out of line, but she couldn't. "Not here. Not now." She murmured an apology and retreated to the kitchen, her vision blurring with unshed tears. Later, as Wilder's group left, he tossed a crumpled $20 bill on the table, a pitiful tip for a $1,200 meal. Marissa pocketed it, her hands shaking. She thought the night was over. She was wrong. The next morning, Hargrove called Marissa into his office. His face was pale, his tie askew. "Marissa," he said, avoiding her eyes, "I'm letting you go." She blinked, stunned. "What? Why?" "Last night. Mr. Wilder complained. He's influential. We can't afford to lose his business." "He insulted me," Marissa said, her voice rising. "He humiliated me in front of everyone. And you're firing me." Hargrove shifted uncomfortably. "It's not personal. It's business." Marissa's mind raced. 5 years of perfect shifts, of swallowing her pride, of enduring microaggressions from customers and co-workers alike, and now this. She thought of the time she'd been passed over for promotions, the way Hargrove always gave the best tables to white servers, the snide comments from patrons about her attitude. It wasn't just Wilder. It was the whole system, rigged against her. She left the restaurant in a daze, her apron still in her hand. But as she walked home through the bustling streets of Manhattan, something shifted. Anger replaced her shock. She wasn't going to let this go. Not this time. Marissa found a lawyer through a community legal aid group, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Karen Tate who specialized in workplace discrimination. Karen listened to Marissa's story, her eyes narrowing with each detail. "This is bigger than wrongful termination," Karen said. "This is about systemic bias. We're going to sue Lucille and Wilder if we can." The lawsuit was filed within weeks. Marissa alleged that her firing was not just about Wilder's complaint, but part of a pattern of racial discrimination at Lucille. She cited years of unequal treatment, from being denied opportunities to the way management caved to wealthy patrons. The case gained traction, and soon, local news outlets were covering it. Marissa's face appeared on blogs and social media, her story resonating with service workers across the city. But the backlash was swift. Wilder's PR team painted Marissa as a disgruntled employee, a troublemaker who'd overstepped her role. Anonymous trolls flooded X with vitriol, calling her ungrateful and worse. Marissa's phone buzzed with hateful messages, but she refused to back down. She'd been silent for too long. The trial was a spectacle. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, activists, and curious onlookers filled the seats. Wilder arrived in a tailored suit, his presence commanding, his smile smug. Marissa, in a simple navy dress, felt small under the weight of his gaze. The jury, a mix of New Yorkers, seemed swayed by Wilder's charisma from the start. His lawyer, a shark in a pinstripe suit, tore into Marissa's character, portraying her as incompetent and defiant. Wilder took the stand, his voice smooth as silk. "Ms. Green was unprofessional," he said. "She argued with me, disrespected me in front of my guests. She's trying to spin this into something it's not because she's bitter. People like her, they take a job and expect the world to bend for them." The words stung, but Marissa kept her head high. She knew the truth. And she had something Wilder didn't know about. On the third day of the trial, Marissa's lawyer called her to the stand. The room was tense, the air thick with anticipation. Marissa's hands shook as she pulled a small USB drive from her pocket. "I have evidence," she said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. A recording from that night. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Wilder's lawyer objected, but the judge allowed it. Marissa explained, she'd been testing a new voice memo app on her phone that night, a habit she'd picked up to record recipe ideas on the go. By chance, it had captured her entire exchange with Wilder. The audio played, and the room fell silent. Wilder's voice, dripping with contempt, filled the air. "You think you're special because you carry trays? You're just a waitress. People like you don't belong in places like this." He laughed, then added, "A chef? You stick to serving, sweetheart. It's all you're good for." Gasps echoed through the courtroom. The recording went on, Wilder's words growing uglier, laced with racial slurs and mockery of Marissa's appearance. The jury's faces shifted, shock, disgust, anger. Wilder's smug grin vanished, his face paling as the truth laid him bare. The recording changed everything. By evening, it was trending on X, shared thousands of times with hashtags like #JusticeForMarissa and #EndWorkplaceRacism. News outlets ran the story non-stop, and protests erupted outside Lucille's flagship location. Wilder's empire took a hit, his stock plummeted, and sponsors distanced themselves. The restaurant, desperate to save face, offered Marissa a settlement, $500,000 and a position as head chef at their new Brooklyn location. Marissa accepted, but not for the money. She wanted the platform. She used her settlement to fund a campaign against workplace discrimination, speaking at rallies and partnering with advocacy groups. Her story inspired servers, bartenders, and cooks across the country to share their own experiences of bias and mistreatment. 2 years later, Marissa stood in the kitchen of her own restaurant, Soulfire, a cozy space in Harlem where the menu blended Southern comfort food with haute cuisine. The walls were lined with photos of her family, her staff, and the community that had rallied behind her. Soulfire was a hit, its tables booked months in advance, its staff treated with respect and paid a living wage. Marissa never forgot the weight of that courtroom, the fear of standing against a man like Wilder. But she also never forgot the power of her own voice. She'd turned her pain into purpose, her struggle into strength. As she plated a dish of braised oxtail with a lavender-infused jus, she smiled. This was her dream, and no one could take it away. Marissa's story didn't end with Soulfire. She became a beacon for change, mentoring young chefs of color and advocating for fair labor laws. Her TED Talk, The Taste of Resilience, went viral, inspiring millions. Wilder, meanwhile, faded from the spotlight, his reputation tarnished, his influence diminished. Marissa's victory wasn't just hers, it was for every worker who'd ever been told to know their place. And in every corner of the world, her story whispered, "Speak your truth. It's louder than you know."